If you're 100% satisfied with your life exactly how it is, then this video is probably not for you. But if, like me, you're someone who feels like you're capable of so much more and who has this itch that normal everyday life just can't seem to scratch, then keep watching. Like, what if I could teach you a way to increase your creativity, boost your confidence and self belief, lower stress and anxiety, increase your tolerance to stress and your ability to perform under pressure, and overcome stagnation and create positive forward momentum in your life? How would that change your life? Because that's exactly what I want to offer you. In this video, we're going to explore how training martial arts has made me a better creator and why you should do more hard shit. Now, before you start thinking I have zero interest in training martial arts, so this video is not for me, bear with me because I'm not telling you to train martial arts. What I do want to give you, though, is a new perspective on challenge and adversity so that you can train yourself to lean in to the inevitable discomfort that comes from trying to scratch that itch. In the last 18 months, I've completely transformed my entire life. I've lost 15 kilos. I'm happier and healthier than I've ever been in my life. I'm fitter and stronger than ever before. I've started this YouTube channel, which is a dream I've had for at least 8 years. I finished the 75 hard challenge. I've not only started training jujitsu, but trained like an athlete, which is not an identity I ever thought I would own in my entire life. And I'm more confident and I have greater self belief, and I'm watching myself do all the things that I've been talking about for years. And I put all of those results down to one thing, which is training myself to do hard things. So in order to fully understand like the weight of these results, we need to go back in my story a bit. I spent the better part of my 30s as just a complete shadow of my former self. Just after my 30th birthday back in 2016, I got really, really sick. My body just completely gave out on me. I had systemic inflammation, chronic fatigue, extreme pain. I gained a bunch of weight. I just had such extreme brain fog and no energy, so I just couldn't do anything. And after already having a lifetime of dealing with so many challenges with my body, I just completely gave up. So for the next 6 years, I kind of struggled through, but I never seemed to get better. I tried so many things, but nothing seemed to work until I realized that I just wanted the magic pill. I wanted the quick fix. I was resisting the fact that deep down, I knew what I needed to do. Like, I knew that the results that I wanted required me to put in some serious effort. I was just being a victim. I was in that space of, oh, this is so unfair. I can't deal with this. Why is this happening to me? And I didn't have the courage or the drive or the conviction to just fucking do what I needed to do because I was being a little entitled brat. It was easier to stay sick and blame my body than it was to accept the fact that if I wanted to get better, I had to put in the hard work. I had to be strict with myself. Like, I had to be disciplined and push myself if I was going to get better. Little did I know that that would come in the form of me pushing myself more physically than ever before in my life. So I started training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu almost a year ago, and now I'm a year into my training and I'm completely hooked. And it's completely transformed my entire life. And yes, the physical transformation is a big part of that. Like, I've lost so much weight, I'm super strong and fit and healthy, and that's amazing. I wouldn't change that for the world, having been so sick for so long. But it's actually not just about the physical transformation. It's the mindset it's instilling in me, which has had the most profound and direct impact on my journey of owning my voice as a creative. We are the architects of our beliefs, the decisions we make, and the results those decisions deliver. We may not always realize it, but we have a relatively significant impact on how our lives unfold. So there's 3 key lessons that I've learned from training martial arts that have completely changed the way that I show up for my creativity and the vision that I have for my life. So the first one is embrace the suck. The first stage of any new skill or project is you suck. I very quickly realized when I started training that I needed to accept that for at least the first 6 months, I was just going to suck. Like, turning up to training day in and day out, knowing that I was going to spend most of the class on my back, just being completely crushed by my training partner, has taught me so much about perseverance and resilience and just totally embracing the suck. And it's just like learning any new skill, like any new endeavor, any new project. When we first start, the first stage is you just suck. And it's something that so many people don't push through. But it's like, first stage is you suck. If you persevere with that long enough, then you make it to stage 2. And then you keep persevering. And then you make it to stage 3. And then stage 4, you get the picture. But most people are not willing to move through that first stage of just sucking. You know, we're so worried about being judged and how we look and fucking up and looking like a fool that we end up giving up before we've given ourselves a chance to get good at anything. Think of it this way: there are 2 kinds of failure. The first comes from never trying out your ideas because you are afraid or because you're waiting for the perfect time. This kind of failure you can never learn from, and such timidity will destroy you. The second kind comes from a bold and venturesome spirit. If you fail in this way, the hit that you take to your reputation is greatly outweighed by what you learn. Repeated failure will toughen your spirit and show you with absolute clarity how things must be done. Anyone who wants to walk an unusual path in life needs to be prepared to suck. Like, failure is just a given on the path to mastery. It can't be avoided. It's just part of it. But doing things on a regular basis that are just outside your current skill level, that's how we progress. Like, that's how we grow. That's how we learn. Not only that, but it also builds humility. Like, when you're having your ass handed to you over and over and over again, like in jujitsu, when you're being crushed by another human, it's humbling as fuck. Like, it teaches you to put your ego aside in order to learn. But that's life, right? Like, that's just life. We get our asses handed to us over and over again, especially if you're someone who wants to bring something different and unique and unusual into the world and live life on your own terms. I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but you're going to have your ass handed to you so many times. If you don't learn to take the hit, get curious instead of taking it personally, take a deep breath, dust yourself off, and try again, you'll just give up. But that's what most people do. Like, they're too proud to let themselves get through the stage where they just suck. The ones who succeed are the ones who are able to get curious, like they ask themselves, whether consciously or unconsciously, why didn't that work? They recalibrate, reiterate, and they try again. Not take it personally. They don't let it mean that there's something wrong with them. They analyze the data, they use failure as feedback, and they try again. And they make adjustments. They step back, change tactics, gather information where necessary, and they try again. You see the pattern, right? Like, just because you suck doesn't mean you're not getting it, which brings me to point number 2: patient progress, the art of incremental improvement. This has probably been like the most impactful lesson I've taken away from training so far. I don't know how much you know about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but to say that it's complicated is like the understatement of the century. It's like the most intricate, intense puzzle that puts so many demands on your brain and body to stay alert, or else you're going to get choked. There's like a billion techniques, and they all need to be adjusted not only to your own body, but they are different for every single person that you train with. Like, for the first 6 months at least, I didn't get off my back. Like, we'd drill these techniques and I'd think, oh yeah, I can do this. And then everything would fall out of my brain as soon as we went into live roles, and I'd end up just getting crushed by my training partner. Like, 90% of my training for the last year has been me thinking, man, I'm just never going to get good at this. With this like odd moment of glory where I was like, oh, I nailed that technique. I like submitted my partner. But those moments are so incredibly satisfying, like so deliciously fulfilling. And the reason is because I know I've worked my ass off for that. We all love seeing immediate results. We live in the age of instant gratification, but real mastery is so far from instant. The desire for instant results robs us of the process of mastery. And the real gold that comes from mastering any skill is not actually the nailing of the skill, it's who you get to become in the process. Like, mastery teaches us who we really are and what we're really made of. You cannot have everything in the present. The road to mastery requires patience. You'll have to keep your focus on 5 or 10 years down the road when you will reap the rewards of your efforts. The process of getting there, however, is full of challenges and pleasures. The combination of seeking instant gratification and the myth of the overnight success means that we've become a culture that have all but forgotten the art of slow, patient progress. We want the quick fix, the 4 week transformation, the 5 step formula. We think in minutes, not decades. Creating something truly great in life means learning extreme patience. It means seeing any progress as progress. It means letting go of the belief that if it's not 100% perfect, you shouldn't bother. It means showing up to your practice with humility and devotion, and then seeing it all come together in that perfect moment for a moment, and then it's back to practice. The third thing I've learned from training is performance under literal pressure, hormesis for life. I know this sounds really weird, and a lot of women, and probably men for that matter, will think this is insane, but being a 63 kilo woman, having a 90+ kilo man use his full body weight to keep me pinned to the ground has taught me so much about keeping calm under pressure. Like, if you try to scramble to get out, you A, waste a whole bunch of energy that you need to keep your wits about you, and B, you shut down your creativity and your ability to recall information, such as the jujitsu technique you need to get yourself out of that shitty position. If that's not a perfect metaphor for life, then I don't know what is. Like, modern life puts so many demands on us every single day. Stress is a given. Our ability to cope with stress determines what we're able to create in life. Like, if you're someone who crumbles at the first sign of pressure, even just making it through the day can feel like a mammoth task, let alone taking on the added psychological weight of starting a creative project or pursuit. Flight, our creativity shuts down. Like, our body is being flooded with all these cortisol and stress hormones to kick us into action to get away from the perceived danger. Like, when we're in that state, creativity is not really a high priority for our biology. But by intentionally putting ourselves in positions and situations where we're under a lot of pressure, we can actually teach ourselves to stay calm when we're in that space, which means our creativity can come back online. Think about it as hormesis, but for your life. Stress often gets a bad rap. That's because when we think of stress, we typically think of chronic stress, which is the unrelenting sort associated with systemic inflammation, disease risk, and burnout. However, not all stress is bad. In fact, if it weren't for the good stress in our lives, we'd never grow or see improvements in cognition, physical strength, or cardiorespiratory or immune function. The key difference between good, hormetic, and bad, chronic stress is that good stress has an endpoint, after which your body has an opportunity to rest and rebuild. And it's the rebuilding that promotes resilience and longevity. Therefore, if you're motivated to live a longer, healthier life, you should learn to manipulate stress to your advantage. Wouldn't you rather train yourself to deal with stresses that are in your control rather than ones that are out of your control? Like, this is why I believe that we really need to intentionally struggle. If you choose to do hard things that are in your control, you are training yourself to be able to deal when you have to face hard things that are out of your control. And that's a given. So, do you want to change by design or by disaster? The world is changing. Like, we can't deny it and we can't stop it. The more time we spend sitting around wishing it wasn't happening or like trying to deny the fact that everything is changing, the more likely we're just going to get left behind. But the thing is, the world has always changed. Like, if you think about evolution, that's just what it is. If our ancestors were as averse to challenge as we are, the human race literally wouldn't exist anymore. Like, we evolved through struggle, challenge, and doing hard shit. Change is inevitable. Like, that is just the truth. We know that that's the one given in life is change. The thing that makes it scary is when we don't feel okay in ourselves. Like, that's been my experience. When I felt really weak in myself, my body was non functional, I didn't feel healthy, I had no confidence. Life felt terrifying because I didn't feel like I could deal with anything. The antidote to the fear of everything that's happening outside of us is building ourselves up from the inside. The reaction of feeling fearful and unsure and scared is actually just a reflection of how we feel inside ourselves. When we feel confident, strong, and able, like we have the skills, knowledge, and follow through, and the physical strength, energy, and capability to move through anything life throws at us, it changes our whole perspective on life. When you have that, you go from this space of like pulling away and going internal and thinking, oh my God, everything is changing and it's out of my control and I just can't deal with this, to this space of like empowerment and leaning in and going, bring it on, like come at me, I've got this. It is such a different energetic. When you're in that space of I can't deal with this, it's avoidant. You know, we shy away from courage and challenge, and that can be any kind of challenge. It could be the challenge of having an uncomfortable conversation with someone in your life, the challenge of changing your habits and behaviors to live a more healthy lifestyle, the challenge of birthing a business or starting a creative project, the challenge of saying no to a mediocre life that doesn't bring you any sense of fulfillment. Any of these things require us to have a certain level of courage, a certain level of confidence, and a certain level of belief in ourselves. You can choose courage or you can choose comfort. You cannot have both. So, what is it that makes us go from I can't deal with this to bring it on, I've fucking got this? My belief is that this feeling of powerlessness, anxiety, and overwhelm, not being able to deal with things, is actually a symptom of the fact that in Western society, most of us are just too fucking comfortable. Like, our lives have become suffocated by convenience, comfort, and consumption, which has bred this culture of people who are just straight up avoidant to challenge. But a radical new body of evidence shows that people are at their best, physically harder, mentally tougher, and spiritually sounder after experiencing the same discomforts our early ancestors were exposed to every day. Scientists are finding that certain discomforts protect us from physical and psychological problems like obesity, heart disease, cancers, diabetes, depression, and anxiety, and even more fundamental issues like feeling a lack of meaning and purpose. Like I said earlier, our ancestors evolved through challenge and struggle and adversity, and we have everything we need at our fingertips. But the anxious brain needs something to worry about, right? So, what do we do when we don't really have anything to worry about? We create things to worry about. Like, so many of the perceived struggles that we have in modern society are just that, they're a perception. And in the wise words of Seneca, we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The things that we perceive as danger in modern society have little to no chance of putting us in any real physical danger. It's the outcome, like the perceived outcome, that we're actually scared of. We're scared of losing income, status, material possessions. We're scared of being judged. We're scared of losing love. We're scared of embarrassment. We're scared of being uncomfortable. But these are only things we think might happen if we take certain risks. Like, so much of what we think is going to happen is actually just an illusion that we've created in our minds. Most people's way of making sure those scary things never happen to them is to never take those actions, no matter how much they want to deep down, which means fear wins. And the people who are willing to take those risks get put on a pedestal because they're the ones that are willing to come face to face with those potentially scary outcomes. Sometimes they come face to face with that scary thing, but more often than not, they get to experience the opposite. They get to see that their fears were just a complete illusion. Do you know how many people think I'm completely insane for putting myself in a position multiple times a week where I'm legitimately at risk of physical injury? But do you know how many times I've been choked out in the last 12 months? Zero. Do you know how many broken bones I've had in the last 12 months? Zero. Do you know how many serious injuries I've had in the last 12 months? Zero. Like, the thing that most people bring to mind when you tell them you train martial arts, like that you're a fighter, is that you must come face to face with physical injury and pain. And like, yeah, that's part of it. But the thing that I actually get out of it is I actually get to find out what my body is capable of. Like, so many of the women in my life balk at the fact that I'm constantly covered in bruises. But I love those bruises because they're kind of like a reminder for me that I'm willing to do the hard thing. And yeah, maybe I am a little bit nuts, but like Joe Rogan says, insanity and greatness live next door to each other, and they borrow each other's sugar. If you want to feel truly alive, go and do fucking hard things with your body. Like, trust me, the feeling that you get every time your brain is like, excuse me, what are we doing? And why are we doing that? But every time I do it anyway, it's like I feel myself get a little bit taller. My spine's a little bit longer. I hold my head up a little bit higher. Like it instills this, yeah, fuck you, brain. Like you can't boss me around. And that's empowering. And, if doing physical things is not your jam, then go and find other things that you find hard and do them. And they don't have to be extreme. Like, I'm not telling everyone to go train martial arts. If that's not your thing, fine. Go and find something else that feels really uncomfortable and do that. Like the person that you get to become in the process is so worth it. The key to overcoming fear is to face it head on rather than avoiding it or trying to suppress it. Doing hard but satisfying things boosts your confidence and elevates your consciousness so that you don't react negatively when life inevitably throws curveballs at you. Nothing great in this world comes without a little bit of adversity. Nothing amazing happens inside our comfort zones. Whether we're talking about getting a promotion, nurturing a challenged marriage, mastering a sport, building or saving a small business, navigating a pandemic, battling disease, dealing with the loss of a loved one, raising children, or hunting terrorists, a little bit of suffering will always be attached. That's why the things we love and work hard for are deeply rewarding. All right, so how do you train yourself to do hard things? The first step, as always, is self awareness. Like, I talk about this so much and I'm laughing because I feel like in every video, this is the first step. But it is so important if we want to make any changes in our lives and change the trajectory of where we're heading and the outcomes that we're getting, then we need to understand ourselves. Like, that is just a given because you don't know what you don't know. If there's one thing I've learned in my life, it's that whatever I'm resisting the most is where I'm going to find the most growth. The more important a call or action to your soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel towards pursuing it. So I've started asking myself, what am I resisting the most? Because I know from my past experiences that whatever I am putting off the most usually holds the key to my next level. And I guarantee you're no different. Like you already know the thing that you're resisting because you also know that on the other side of leaning into that thing is something you deeply desire. But if the things that we deeply desired weren't hard or weren't on the other side of something that was challenging, we'd just have them already, right? So it's about getting curious about what you are in resistance to. And that's everything like people, places, events, actions, behaviors, habits. What are those little things that you're resisting? Because they hold the key to your next level. Identify the what. Exactly what are you resisting? Then explore the why. Why are you resisting that thing? Is it because you're scared of success, failure, rejection? So, next, you want to start digging into the worst case scenario. Like, the reason being that if you can bring into your consciousness the outcome that you're most scared of, you actually start shifting the mental stress that's associated with that potential outcome. And, like we already talked about, most of that is just illusion anyway. Fear is a perception, not a reality, and derives from the unknown. If you bring your fears into the light of consciousness, they actually start to diminish. Like most of us aren't actually that clear on what we're scared of. It's just this like undefined sense of, yeah, I don't want to do that because it's going to be uncomfortable. But when we start actually digging into it and bringing that into our consciousness, it starts to shift. So define it, face it, see it for the illusion it is, and then embrace it. Which brings me to step number 2, which is embrace the suck. This is where we want to intentionally start leaning into the thing that feels hardest or least comfortable. But you don't necessarily have to start there. It's like a muscle. Resilience is a muscle you develop over time. Just like you don't walk into the gym, pick up a 50-kilo dumbbell and start trying to smash out 100 bicep curls, you don't need to pick the biggest, scariest thing to start. Like, I'm sure there's more than one thing that feels hard. So pick something that feels challenging but not terrifying. And once that feels somewhat comfortable, then go to stage 2, then stage 3, and so on. Like for me, when I started jujitsu, I was terrified. Like I was so intimidated by the idea of stepping into a class with a bunch of guys that I'd never met to do something I'd never even seen done before. So my coach suggested that I do a few one-on-one sessions with him and just get used to the movements and be in the space before I started a real class. And that made it so much easier. It was still hard, but it meant that I kind of had this like path to follow that wasn't just going from 0 to 100. But also remember that it's going to suck. Like, you're going to suck to start with, so just embrace it. Accept failure, enjoy it even, embrace the suck, for the suck is part of the process. The process of getting good at anything means we have to go through the stage where we suck at everything. That's just part of the process of life. And then we just rinse and repeat, like rinse and repeat and repeat and repeat. And that's the process of getting better. Life is hard, like, especially in our modern society where we've got so much information and stimulation coming at us every day. And then we're expected to keep up with this like hectic, fast paced, crazy lifestyle that our brains just never evolved to deal with. Like, it's no wonder that our mental health is suffering and that people are facing health challenges. Like, it's a lot. But if we intentionally choose struggle and we put ourselves in challenging situations of our choosing, we start training ourselves to be able to deal with that stress and the hardships of life that are just a given. Like, hardship is inevitable. So why wouldn't we want to train ourselves to be able to deal with it? It seems like a no brainer to me. This is why I preach do hard things and discipline and all of these things, because it's a skill that we need in order to deal with the way that the world is going. And it's something that most people don't do, but it's so satisfying. Like, one of the biggest lessons I've had in the last few years is remembering how much I love doing hard things, because it is so satisfying. It's satisfying to see myself getting better. It's satisfying to find out what I'm really capable of. And it's satisfying to, you know, be in control of my mind that's telling me to do anything else. And I think that every single person can benefit from this. So I really hope this has given you a new perspective on challenge and adversity, and has given you the encouragement to go and find some challenging things and watch yourself get better and just see what you're made of, because that's what life is about. I'm going to wrap it up there because I could just go on and on about this forevermore. But I respect your time. I'm really grateful for you watching all the way to the end. If you want to jump on my mailing list, I've got my weekly letter drop of Mindfuck Mondays, where I'm sharing impactful ideas that can help you improve your life and keep finding out what you are capable of. And you can also get a copy of my free ebook, which is all about what it takes to thrive in the creator economy. And until next week, I hope you find some hard shit to do. Thanks so much, guys. Mwah.